It's a real privilege to join you today. As Paul said, a bank is an unusual speaker to be at a water seminar, but AWA is a really critical partnership for ANZ. We are very proud of our partnership with AWA. It's part of something that's really important to ANZ, which is environmental sustainability. So it's a great opportunity to partner with a quality organisation and access to and working with a membership base that value water security, water sustainability as much as ANZ does. So thanks again for the ability to be here. I'm going to touch on a couple of brief aspects around financing and doing business in Vietnam. So with a focus around our customers and businesses that are exporting into Vietnam or contracting into Vietnam, which I think is applicable for a number of the people here today and a number of the people who will be going to Vietwater. So a couple of aspects which I'm going to touch on is financing your exports or your contracting to Vietnam, managing currency risk, dealing with new counterparties, and managing your receivables, so making sure you get paid efficiently. In terms of establishing relationships with new counterparties, your traditional trade instruments such as letters of credit, standby letters of credit, import letters of credit, they've been around forever, but they're still the most relevant and most effective the most effective instruments for managing new counterparty or client relationships in Vietnam. So we still see import letters of credit to help you export physical goods into Vietnam and Southeast Asia. They're still very relevant. They're still commonly used. It's still a very effective way of establishing a relationship with a new client, a new counterparty, and managing that counterparty risk and making sure you get paid. Your local Australian bank can help you if the import letter of credit is issued by a Vietnamese bank that you're not familiar with. Your local Australian bank can help you with a view or an opinion around that counterparty bank. And you can also use those import letters of credit to help you with accessing pre-shipment finance in Australia. So, as I said, still a very relevant instrument. If you're a services company or a consultancy company, then standby letter of credit, again, is still a very common way of managing that counterparty risk or then your customer relationship. So, sorry, just getting the notes here. And then touching on the currency aspect, if you are receiving payment out of Vietnam into Australia for export, then US dollars are still the most common currency that you'll be dealing with. So, the traditional ways of managing your currency risk remain relevant. So, foreign exchange options, forward exchange contracts, maintaining a US dollar account for your Australian business to help you manage that foreign exchange risk between US dollars and your Aussie. If you've got a cost base or operations in Australia that's creating that currency risks, then you can still access those common exchange control mechanisms. If your counterparty in Vietnam prefers to pay you in dong, then obviously you need to establish an account in country in Vietnam to receive those payments, and then it's still a controlled currency, the dong. So there are some restrictions around pulling out dividends or repatriating profit out of country. So our recommendation is that you engage early with the right professional firms or professional advisors in Vietnam, so accounting and legal. There's an advantage if you've got an accounting or legal partner that's got operations on both sides of the divide. So if they've got Australian operations and Vietnamese operations, then we see that as an advantage. We're happy to provide introductions to firms. We've got no allegiances, but we know firms that do good work in country in Vietnam and have Australian operations in terms of accounting and legal. So happy to provide those introductions. You've heard a lot about relationship, and and we would reiterate that. So maintaining strong relationships with those professional firms, with a bank in country and also in Australia, and with your counterparties and some of the so Austrade, EFIC, AWA, really important relationships for you to maintain. So just a little bit, this isn't certainly an ANZ plug, but just a little bit about ANZ in Vietnam. So we've been there since '93. We've been locally incorporated since 2008. We've got offices in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh. We've still got about 150 people on ground in there. So we are growing our institutional, corporate, commercial business in Vietnam, and our aim is to support our customers, Australian and New Zealand customers who are doing business in Vietnam. And Vietnam is still a very important market for us, and it's the hub for our Greater Mekong business. So we're also running our Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar business out of the Vietnam head office, but whilst having on the ground representation in those countries. So that's sort of the key things I wanted to cover off on. I'm available for questions over lunch. I had the privilege of going to Vietwater last year, and I'd certainly, anyone who hasn't committed as yet, I'd certainly recommend it as a great avenue to develop business relationships in the Vietnam water sector. It's an extraordinarily well-run event, largely because of the AWA team. The booth looks fantastic, and it generates a lot of interest. So it's a well worth investment for any of you who are looking at growing or expanding your operations in Vietnam.